the Open Door Intruders coming at you again for another semester of Mr. Rogers' wonderful class. So this semester, Chapter 1, Government and the State, presented by yours truly, Victor Martinez, and the lovely Sergio Gomez.
Alright, so the intro to civics. Why do we need a government? Well, the government protects us from many things. They try to keep us, they try to keep our freedom to the most that we deserve.
When you say it's what we deserve, are you talking about places like Kim Jong-un and Fidel Castro?
That is right.
Yes.
Hugo Chavez?
Yes, sir.
Really?
What are you talking about?
Nah. Wait, what was the question again?
Well, you said that the government tries to protect our freedoms to the extent that we deserve, and my question.
Well, I mean, if you just like murdered someone, they're not gonna be free. They're not gonna like be like, okay, you're alright, you could go. No?
So anyways, we need the government to protect us, because without the government, we'd just be a bunch of people. We'll be some Neanderthals. So life without the government is unimaginable. Can't imagine it. Next slide. Alright, so the powers of the government. The three branches, we all know the three branches. Went over it probably in 8th grade. The legislative, they make the laws. The executive enforces the laws. And the judicial interprets the laws so we can understand them.
So that only applies to the United States? That's the only place that has those three powers?
Well, this is the United States government, so that's how the U.S. does it.
Does North Korea, does Venezuela, does Cuba, do those nation states exercise these three powers as well?
Nah, next slide.
Go back, try again.
No, the next slide has kind of. Not that guy. All right. So the two forms of government here in the United States, we are a democracy. It's ran by that guy. Well, he's not like that guy. But anyways, he's the head of the executive branch, the third, one of the three branches. But unlike Mr. Obama, the dictator has a lot more power, of course. We all know that. So that is another form of government. But here in the U.S., we are a democracy.
Wait, I'm going to question you on these because terms are really important when we get into this. Are we a democracy?
Define democracy.
I think that's a good place to start. And then you decide whether or not we are a democracy.
When the responsibility for the exercise of these powers rests with the majority of the people, that form of government is known as democracy. So democracy is where the people run the government. And I say we're...
So you say 300 million plus people are running the government?
Well, they elect representatives. Yeah. We're going to put our 2 cents in a little bit.
Okay, I think you have some hands here. Do you want to call on these folks?
All right, T, you're saying that the American people run the government. Well, what do you say about all the bills, or not really bills, or all the laws and the orders that get passed without civilian or without our consent into it, and how you're saying that we need the government, that they protect us? Well, into that statement, when it comes to the police force, what about civil forfeiture laws?
Okay, so what's your point?
I'm just defining democracy. That's my job.
Yeah, that's your job.
I'm not trying to
I'm asking
Elizabeth, go ahead.
We're a republic because although it's a democracy, we have people assigned to, like, that's their job. They're going to be creating laws and, like, being, like, representatives for everyone else.
The people, for the people, by the people.
So you're saying we're not a democracy?
We're a little bit of
You can't have it both ways, guys. You can't sit on the fence. Are we a republic? Are we a democracy?
I'm going to say democracy. That's my final answer.
Okay, technically, this is my job. This is why they pay me the money. We are actually technically a democratic republic. So In a sense, you're right. Like in California, we have the option, as those who have registered to vote, when you go to the ballot, you're going to see oftentimes on there propositions or initiatives where the people can actually vote on whether or not they want that. That's direct democracy. That's voting on something directly. However, that's where it ends, because when we go to Washington, D.C., the founders set it up where, what? We would elect people who would then, what? Represent our interests. So we have a little democracy, but we also live in a democratic republic. We are, by the very nature of the creation of the Constitution, a republic. So I know it's a little like, sounds like I'm splitting hairs, but it's really important to understand that. Now I'm going to take you back to the dictator here. You said that the dictator, like Kim Jong-un, Hugo Chavez, and Fidel Castro, did not have legislative, executive, and judicial powers. Do you care to revise that statement?
Oh, that he can make his own whatever laws he wants.
So does
Enforce
he?
them how he wants.
So does he have legislative, executive, and judicial powers?
Yeah, but he doesn't have a branch. Like,
But we organize it much differently than a dictator does, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to be talking about the purpose of a government, which is to establish justice, provide for the common defense, promote general welfare, ensure domestic tranquility, and secure the blessings of liberty.
Alright, to get into a little depth of this. Establishing justice. Justice is, like we all know, the police or anything that can restrain you. Domestic tranquility is like having peace with everyone at home. And the common defense is like the immigration, keeps quote unquote aliens out. General welfare helps the ones struggling with money and pretty much gives them something to stay up if they qualify.
Are you sure that's what the founding fathers meant by general welfare?
General welfare, school. Like for us, they help the school.
Why is educating the next generation so important if you live in a
Because
republic?
we're the future.
Okay, can you narrow that down a little bit? If you don't educate the next generation on what it means to live in a republic, what might happen, Sergio?
Dictatorship.
We have a video. It relates to the government. It's about the government, so I'm going to play it. It was on Saturday Night Live. It's not too inappropriate. It does cuss a lot. I'm just kidding.
You really...
We now return to a brand new episode of Schoolhouse Rock.
Boy, you really have to climb a lot of steps to get to this Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Say, what's that piece of paper doing here?
Oh, you mean me? I tell you who I am. I'm just a bill. Yes, I'm only a bill. And I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. But I know I'll be along someday. At least I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a bill.
Oh, what kind of bill are you?
Why, I'm an immigration bill. And one day the Republicans might create me so I could become a law.
And how does a bill become a law?
Funny you should ask. Well, first I go to the House and they vote on me. But then I need from the Senate a majority. And if I pass the legislative bill, then I wind up on the president's desk. And I say, sweet, put your weapon. My legs. They were made of paper.
President Obama, what's the big idea? That bill was trying to become a law.
I realize that. But you know, son, there's actually an even easier way to get things done around here. It's called an executive order.
I'm an executive order, and I pretty much just happened. And that's it. Wait a second, don't you have to go through Congress at some point? Oh, that's adorable. You still think that's how government works?
Don't answer to him, son. Look at the midterm elections. People clearly don't want this. Oh, you black ass! Oh, yeah. Oh, why? Why did I come back? I think I landed on my keys.
Mr. President, is this constitutional?
Of course. Presidents issue executive orders all the time.
That's right. I can do lots of things. I'll create a national park or a new holiday.
Or grant legal status to 5 million undocumented immigrants.
Wait, what?
Yep, that's what you're going to do.
Oh my God, well I didn't have time to read myself. Whoa! Okay, go big or go home, huh?
This isn't over. We're gonna take it to court. We're gonna shut down all the colleges. So many steps. So many steps.
Well, son, what do you think about the government now?
I think I want to go into the private sector.
Me too, son. Me too. One more thing.
So that was a pretty funny video.
Okay, now you can't let that go. There is a lot of content in there. Yeah, people think that was just fun and games, but they had loaded that with political and public policy to the max. Now you expound, you exhort, take us to the higher level of critical thinking. I think that's a great way to do it. Humor's a great way to teach, but they were making some pretty serious points there.
If you guys keep up with today's world, Obama is kind of on the burner for an executive order. So, a bill is cool and all, but Mr. Obama found something even easier. And people don't agree with it, of course, and they're going to try to do anything they could to stop it. But it's legal, it's all in the Constitution and everything, but if you understand what they're saying, it's actually even funnier. So just, thank you. We're done.
Wait!
I don't know what else to talk about.
So you think Saturday Night Live, the writers there were saying that what President Obama did was perfectly constitutional? You think that's what they were saying?
Well, he found somehow some to get what he wants done in a manner that was easier than going through Congress or Senate or whatever.
So you're saying the Constitution gives the president the choice of whether or not to allow the legislative branch, which is supposed to write the laws, if a president doesn't like the way it's going or the speed, that he's given the choice in the Constitution to bypass the law-making body and write his own laws?
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm just saying that he.
No, is that what's being said there?
Oh, there? Yeah, I guess that's what they're saying. Their whole message. But
do you think are they making fun of the president for doing that? Are they making light of the fact that he may be violating the separation of powers?
yeah,
That's
true.
Yeah.
Depends how you look at it. Everyone says differently.
So that's what I'm asking. What are the writers of Saturday Night Live saying?
They're
And
trying to mock it.
oftentimes they are
Make fun of it.
parroting back what society is saying, right?
Yeah.
So what are the American people saying about this executive order? Is it legal? Is
Well,
it
it's not.
constitutional?
Well, it's not fair. It's not how things should be done. But it got the job, or what he wanted to do, done a lot quicker than how it could really happen.
Okay, so if that's the
And so-
case, you told me earlier, you're saying that we have a legislative, executive, and judicial branch. In the beginning, that's what you said, in this country. And each has a responsibility. And now you're saying that may not be true?
I don't know. The government's pretty tricky. I'm barely in the first chapter of the book, so I'll get back at you.
That's okay.
So
Why don't you ask your peers here for their comments? You brought up, that's a great way to bring up the conversation. And that's great, you're sharing your ideas. Why don't you ask your peers here for their comments? How did they take that? Or you have a
What
team?
was your first response to the video, Victor?
Well, I
Because
just
I know
thought,
you didn't say it before.
I just thought it just really, I think you're all right. It tries to, they use humor to appeal to the public better. So, I just think it really meant that even though we claim to be a democracy and all that, the president still might have more power, and it's not all truly that. And that's why I believe it's not just a firm democracy. That's why it's a democratic republic, like you said. So that's how I feel. It kind of changed my view to it, because I really thought we were all a democracy, but the powers that the president has, it just doesn't hold true to the democracy. So that's why that video changed my mind, and I agree with your statement that we are a democratic republic.
Yeah, it's not my opinion, I'm just quoting back what the text say, so.
So I agree with the text.
Could you repeat the question?
What do you think the writers are trying to say in the video?
Oh, in the video?
Yeah.
I think they were trying to make fun of it and trying to say that it's not right that he's doing that because it's not constitutional. But yeah, I agree with you too.
Well, all I've been doing is asking questions.
Well, you're the teacher.
Well, the teacher, yeah.
Nah, I'm kidding.
The only thing I said definitively is that we're a democratic republic.
Yeah.
The rest of the time I've been what? Asking you,
What we think?
and I'm asking you to defend your statements. What about your peers here? Why don't you solicit some input from your peers?
All right, Heido, what do you think?
I think the government's trying to push things away, but in the same time, there's other things going on that we don't know. And yeah,
Pretty much.
getting pushed away.
Do you guys all think we're actually a democracy, or?
I mean, I know questions
Democratic.
could flare from here, like about dictatorships or whatnot. So, what do you guys think? Yeah, in general.
So Vic, let me ask you this question. If you were President of the United States and you were tonight is a State of the Union address, okay? And one of the things President Obama's been telling people, he's letting it out the past couple of days, is he wants to raise taxes to the tune of, I can't remember how many $1 billion. And he theoretically can't do that because that's something that who would do?
Us.
Congress
Congress.
would do. But what if he decided that he didn't like the way that Congress was doing things, and he said, nah, I'm going to go ahead and raise taxes anyway? Vic, would you do that?
Yeah, I would if that's what I wanted to do.
That was my plan.
And I know I have power to do it. Why not?
Do you?
If I'm the president, yeah.
See, that's the thing. That, do we really know how the Constitution is written? Whose job is it to make and write the laws? Whose job is it to enforce the laws? Whose job is it to interpret the laws? Who writes the laws? Who writes the tax code?
Legislative branch writes the laws.
So who's this legislative branch you're speaking of, Isaiah?
Lawmakers, politicians,
In D.C., who's the lawmaking?
Senate, or
And
Congress,
the House.
House
Is
Reps.
the president part of the legislative branch?
Nah,
What is the role of the president? Is the executive branch? What's he supposed to do, or she?
he's the head of it.
President.
I honestly don't
President
know
Mark.
the actual job of the president. What does he do all day? I don't know. Show up to press conferences and eat lunch with a celebrity or something. But he had the power to do the executive order, the video.
But what is an executive order? Do you know what it is?
I don't.
How did it evolve? Did George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, James Madison, Andrew Jackson, did they use executive orders?
No.
Valerie and then Lupe.
Well, so I have heard this before, like, yes, the legislative branch does make the laws, and two, the president also has a chance to veto those laws if he chooses to.
That's in the Constitution, you're right.
Because they're not just going to give it to him and make him wear a blindfold and sign the paper to pass it. They're going to let him to see it, and he has, like, I think, 12 or a certain amount of days to decide whether to veto it or sign it on the mark, so, yeah.
Right, that was one of the checks and balances built in. If the president didn't like a bill, he or she could veto it, and then what? If the Congress said no, they could go back and override that veto with the 2/3. But did the president write that law? Lupe, what were you going to say?
Well, like the way it was created, it was like, okay, the legislative, the Senate, or the legislative branch, the judicial, and then the executive. Like they are supposed to like have checks and balances, so nobody has more power than the other, and like that was the whole point. So the video that they showed points out that it's not like that anymore. They're changing it so the executives or the executive power can have more power towards everybody else, and that's not fair because that's not how it was made. And if it continues to go like that, then that could lead to dictatorship or something like that.
That is what they were saying on Saturday.
And they're making fun of it because it's like, are you seriously not noticing what's going on like in front of your face? And then even the executive order person was like, wow, I didn't even read myself. Like, we just did this huge thing and like nobody really noticed it. And it's like, that's a lot of people coming in and you don't know the causes and the effects that might come with it.
Yeah, that's it. Well said. I hope you got that on video. That was well said, yeah.
I'm not even recording.
I will say this, though, that might scare some people because they say, well, it's taking too long. The representative government that we're in, it is messy. It takes a long time to write laws, to get things passed. And it's not fast. In a dictatorship, Castro wants something, Kim Jong-un wants something, Fidel Castro wants something, Hugo Chavez, Saddam Hussein, they want something. How quickly does it happen?
Right away.
ASAP. And that's why they look at us and say, oh, you guys take forever. You're so slow and it's so messy. Did the Founding Fathers know it would be slow and messy?
No. Yes, but they wanted it like that.
They wanted that because that would give time to what? Vet everything out. Is this what we really want?
And that does it for section 1.
It's our government. Have fun with that.